Hey geeks, thought it would be fun to do an impromptu video and just kind of show you my Sunday morning routine, which also happens to be kind of like my every morning routine when I can get away with it. Like to sit on the floor in front of one of my bookcases. I've got some of my artwork here. You can see this one here. It's sideways, but I was photographing it for use online, and that's why it's in here. But I also like to bring my paintings inside and look at them for a while, just kind of get a feel for what I think they convey. Most of them are kept in my studio, which is in my garage. You see here I've got a box that has books in it, a couple of other books on top of it. That bag has comics in it that I'm actually going to do a video on shortly. Then I've got this book cleaning kit, because I have a lot of old books, or I usually buy a lot of old books, and I want to clean them up. So I bought that kit. And then I've got these comic book boxes you see there. Those are horrible. Don't buy those. I got them on Amazon. They don't even fit comics. You can see there, like the top is kind of not fitting over the top because there's comics in there. The comics are taller than the box, which is not good. As you can see, I have more books there. I always have a Christmas tree going too. That's my year-round Christmas tree. More books in that box. Those are these two boxes are filled with like reference books for my artwork. Those are comic book boxes, obviously. But what I'm doing is I'm drinking coffee, and I've been looking at the Ditko Omnibus, Volume 1 from DC Comics. And I've also been looking at this book, Henry Moore, Sculpting the 20th Century. So what I like to do is I like to sit down with my coffee, and I'll probably read some comics, but I also like to go through these art books. In this case, this is a sculptor, and pick out the things that I think are inspirational. It's kind of like research. So you can see here, I've got plenty of pages that I bookmark with these little stickies. And one of the things I really like about this sculptor is the way he designs stuff. He does these incredible studies for them. And here we have crayon chalk on paper. And then he'll go and he'll like make stuff like this. Here's something he did. Monoliths in pencil, crayon, pen, and red ink, watercolor, and wash on cream paper, basically. And, when you look at this guy's stuff, I mean, this was done in 1934, but even now it looks futuristic. So if I were a conceptual designer for like a science fiction film, I would definitely look at this guy as an inspiration. And I think you can see some of his work in other films that I cannot name from memory right now. But also, I mean, this looks like something, that would pop out of Midjourney or DALL-E AI art, which makes sense because I'm sure they have seen all of this before, or have seen all of this as part of their programming. And then so what I do is I pick out the things that are interesting to me. I picked out this page because I like these two images here, which were the top one is by George Seurat. I just love this Gothic heavy ink and I think charcoal work. But also what I really like on this page is this study for Guernica by Picasso. He apparently did a ton of drawings for Guernica, studies, before he actually painted the very large masterpiece, you know, which I think is something like, what is it, like 15 feet by 8 feet or something like that. It's a massive painting. But he was doing these studies for it. And I mean, this, when you look at this, this is basically, these are comic book panels to me. And it's telling a story. Somewhat abstract. Definitely has surreal elements to it. And it's a similar situation here with what Henry Moore was doing in his ideas for sculpture and landscape, is sort of breaking up all these disparate images that he had, all these ideas, into panels, into a comics page. As abstract as it may be, it still sort of tells a story. And abstract comics, there was a book that came out about 10 years ago called Abstract Comics. And it's been a huge inspiration to me. You can probably still find it on Amazon. I think it's out of print, though. And I've been meaning to do a video on that book as well. But this is the type of stuff that was in it. They're comics that are made, you know, not so much with attention to story and scripting. It's more that they're just kind of vehicles for sequential abstract art. Some of them kind of make sense to the reader, and some of them don't. Let's see, what else have I bookmarked in here? This is interesting. Pencil, chalk, watercolor, wash, pen and ink on paper. As you can hear in the background, probably, I like to listen to classical music also when I'm doing this. And then something like this, very abstract. I don't know why it's not focusing. Oh, the wonders of technology. There we go. Pencil, chalk, watercolor, and wash on cream heavyweight wove paper. I just like the use of mixed media here. It's very instructive. Let's see, what else do we have in here that I bookmarked? Sorry, I'm trying to keep the camera or the phone as steady as possible. Yeah, this is another one. It's like a comic book page. 1938 when he did this one. I think some of that ultimately led to this sculpture that he did in bronze. This was actually, I think, I don't know if this was another artist who did this and they're just putting this in there as an inspirational piece, but he clearly had some sort of fascination with, you know, World War II, as many artists of that era did, of course. This is morning after the Blitz. Crayon, watercolor, gouache on paper. Definitely, if you're doing a war comic, that's an inspirational scene in terms of its composition, and even the tone that he creates with the art is appropriate for the subject matter. 18 ideas for war drawings. Again, it looks like a comic book. It's basically a cinematic sequence of the war. albeit it's somewhat expressionist, but you could get away with this in a comic book about a war. He has a lot of surrealist elements, I think, in how he treats the human figure, but I'm sure he was no doubt influenced by Picasso. This is amazing here. Crayon, chalk, pen, and ink, watercolor, and wash on white medium weight wove paper. (1941). Pen and ink and wash on this one too. Clearly profoundly impacted by the war. Then Steve Ditko. This book is so cool. It's so good. All of the issues of Shade, the Changing Man, are included in this book. I think it's 9 issues before it got canceled. But also there's an issue that was not included, that they did not publish, but they put it in black and white without the coloring. And this would be cool. I'm sure other comic artists or colorers have probably scanned these and added their own color. It'd be interesting to see if there's some PDFs of that out there on the internet. One of the things about Ditko I've always appreciated, though, are the faces. He has a way with the human face that's just different. It just hits different than any other comic book artist, especially ones that are let's see if I can find some examples of it. There you go. This is I think the character's name is Melu. She is the love of Shade, the Changing Man, who's trying to prove his innocence for a murder he did not commit, and she is now his sworn enemy because she thinks that he attacked her parents, although he was framed for it. She eventually learns the truth that he's innocent, but for the first 5 issues or so, she has this raging hatred for him, which is understandable because she believes that he nearly killed her parents. So her facial expressions throughout the book are just classic by Ditko. She's just, I pace way back for what he's done to you, mother. I swear it, I will. There's another example. Yeah, just and then Ditko can design like some of the strangest villains, and he certainly just kind of runs crazy with his villain designs in this book. I love this thing. This is actually a mechanical robotic device that the villain hides within, and Shade fights it. Yeah, it's a shame it got canceled. I think Ditko was doing some good stuff with it. He was going in some very strange directions. He had pretty good world building in that book. At the end, he had this thing, Odd Man, the Pharaoh and the Mummies. This is also an odd book. This is some classic Ditko weirdness here. I think this was included as a story in the final, what was to be the final issue of Shade the Changing Man, and I think they were giving this a shot to see if this would also be another title that they could launch. To my knowledge, this is the only Odd Man story that exists. He might have done others, um, but this is the first I had ever come across this character or this comic book, and basically his superpower is that he can just kind of trip out people. So, which is similar to Shade. Like Shade's superpower is he can wear this vest that changes his appearance to his opponents in ways that frighten them. And then he can leverage that to attack them. But it also has force field powers as well, this vest that he wears. But Odd Man, well, he dresses odd, and his weapon is a clip-on tie. Seriously. So that tie that he wears, he can throw it at people, and it like knocks guns out of their hands and stuff like that. It's just wacky stuff, man. It's just classic crazy Ditko. And then it gets into a lot of work he was doing for a lot of the DC mystery type titles, and there's even some stories in here from Time Warp, which was a DC title that I actually have the first 3 issues of. I'm currently at this point here, I'm reading Stalker, so I think there's only 3 or 4 issues of Stalker, which was another DC title he launched, I think around the same time he did Shade the Changing Man. So all of those are included in here too. And I really like these editions, these omnibus editions that DC did. They're comic book size. The paper it's almost kind of newsprint, but it's like a high quality newsprint. So, they don't fade over time. At least I don't think so. I mean, this book I think was published probably about 13 years ago. Still looks pretty good. And then the colors still pop. And it looks like I don't think DC did much in the way of trying to alter the coloring for these books, like they do in so many other books, and it kind of ruins it. But yeah, it's got all the Stalker stuff, and then a lot of these one-shot sort of like mystery and horror stories and like sort of science fiction anthology stuff. It's kind of a Klausian couple of panels there, or definitely influenced Klaus, I think. Dan Klaus. And yeah, again, Dan Klaus is one of those artists like I would never probably have known who he is without the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Trying to see if there's any sci-fi. Yeah, this kind of looks like science fiction stuff. He has a way of drawing the human figure. I mean, it looks... There's just something about Ditko, man. It's just totally different than any other comic book artist out there. I recently saw an interview with his brother and his nephew. It's not too old. I think it came out about 3 months ago. I think it's the Comic Book Historian channel. But if you YouTube search relatives interview, Steve Ditko relatives interview or something like that, it'll come up. And it's about 2 hours long, I think. And it's very... it's a very detailed and sort of introspective look into Ditko, not just the artist, but the person, the personality. He's definitely an interesting guy, and pretty much a recluse. Yeah, which I think we're finding that a lot of comic book creators are kind of reclusive. A lot of artists are. Um, Look at this. That looks like, what is that? That's a jumping jack. That spaceship. Check out the aliens. Yeah, I think this is from Time Warp. This looks familiar to me. Cool stuff, man. Cool stuff. So, yeah, after I get my fill of art research and looking at awesome comics, then I can get on with my day. But again, so I was trying to make a point about these particular omnibuses that DC had put out. They did some. They did quite a few. They did some for the Fourth World Saga by Jack Kirby, but they did others as well. But the Ditko and the Kirby ones were the most impressive to me, or the ones that caught my attention. And just after you get through the dust jacket, I mean, look at this. This is beautiful. This is awesome. See if I can do this without. I want to see the other end of this. Yeah, so it's cool wraparound cover. Good, it's good hardcover, good binding. These books are built to last, and they don't make them like this anymore. DC now, from what I've seen, they'll publish like your kind of big standard format size omnibuses or the absolute editions, which are all cool. But I like these too. So whenever I can find them out there used, I think they're definitely a good value. This one and Volume 2, which I also have, I bought those new off the stand. I say new, but I mean, they again, these were published, I think, in 2011. I bought these at Mile High Comics in Denver, and I had them shipped to me. So they were worth it, though, because you don't see these too often. And that's why I got them. There's some, I mean, they're certainly out of print, but they're excellent documents of the work, the DC Comics work of Steve Ditko. There's Meilu's face again. Just love it. Facial expressions, man. Ditko. Probably the king of facial expressions. Maybe. It's debatable, but I'd say he's up there in the top 5, top 3. Anyway, that's all I got for today. You know what to do. Stay geek.